Welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. I'm Logan.
I'm Luke.
And today, since me and Luke just recently watched Project Hail Mary, we are going to talk about space movies. Specifically, like, not Star Wars and, stuff like that, but, like, I guess just a more general sense, like, movies about space. Not really, like, the sci-fi space stuff as much.
Yeah, kind of movies where space is more of a thing to be, like, traveled and not necessarily, like, just the lay of the land. This is how things work now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just watched Project Hail Mary. I liked it quite a bit. I haven't talked to you, like, a whole lot about... Since we saw it, have your thoughts changed on it, or did you like it?
No, I liked it quite a bit. I think that the biggest thing for me with that movie is, like, it looked really good. I mean, the characters were pretty awesome. All in all, the story was awesome. I think the biggest issue that I had with it overall is that the movie was kind of complex in a way that, like, not like that you couldn't understand it as you're watching it, but, like, there was just, like, small things that kind of got overlooked just because of, like, how much was going on, I guess, in a sense.
Sure.
Which, it was a 2.5 hour movie. I'm assuming that's probably why they didn't go into more depth a little bit, just because the storyline itself that we got was already super long. So,
Yeah.
like...
And it was pretty... it was, for me, a lot more of kind of an intimate story than I was expecting. I mean, I knew it was going to have an element of that because, from seeing the trailers and stuff, he's going to, like, befriend a rock-based alien. That's probably going to be a pretty big thing. But I think that took on way more life even than I was expecting it to, and I was expecting it to be really strong. But I think it's like that basically became the catalyst of them being able to accomplish everything. So the amount of time that they put into that, which was a lot, really did pay off in terms of its place in the story, which I liked that it wasn't all just complete spectacle, which I was expecting. And there was a lot of great visuals, but it wasn't the hook of it and what you're relying on for the movie is not... I guess the best way of saying it is, like, that is not what made the movie. What made the movie is, like, the relationship and the friendship and, like, them learning to communicate as the last two beings existing from their crews and such in a place where they both seem to have never been before.
Yeah. And I think, like, that connection and, like, that closeness and the friendship that they ended up forming and stuff like that, it ended up being a big part of what happens is pretty cool. I think all in all, like, the story itself was pretty awesome. Ryan Gosling's character, Dr. Grace, super awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Rocky, it's kind of, whatever. I mean, because it's a rock alien that does not have any sort of expression.
Yeah.
And talks through a computer voice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the dialogue itself was still pretty solid.
Yeah.
That being aside.
Yeah. And also that, like, the dialogue part of it reminded me a lot of this. I won't go too far into this because I want to talk a little more about Project Hail Mary, but, like, you've seen the movie Arrival, and I would say that's a space movie, even though I don't think any of it takes place in space, but it has that feeling to it, but the big part of Arrival is them learning to communicate with an alien that exists and has a completely different way of life, not just in terms of how they look, but also like the environments and stuff they need to survive. So I thought that was just unique, and it was really interesting to how it seemed like the way Rocky talks is almost like musical. Like, to him it's frequencies and hums and stuff, and I thought it was just a cool idea of that being turned into language. So yeah, that was just... It was very charming.
Yeah, it was very
charming relationship. I also say, in terms of visual stuff, it wasn't even a thing that had to do with space, but I thought it was really cool every time it visualized the way Rocky sees, where it like is making that kind of liquid fluid motion coming from sound and stuff. That was really cool looking.
Yeah,
to
that
see.
was really cool. And I think like visually, it was very good visually. But when you go into space movies, a lot of them, especially like the big ones, like as big as like this one's gonna be, you go into it thinking like, oh yeah, like this is gonna like blow me away, you know what I mean? Because that's how most of them are, you know what I mean? Like the space scenes like that. Which don't get me wrong, it was very visually pleasing, like, and it looks awesome. But there weren't as many of the like big like, oh yeah, like this is like this whole scene is just meant to be like visual, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As much as I would have thought there was. Not saying it was bad by any means, you know what I mean? Just I feel like in, your Interstellars and, The Martian and any other movie, like the other movies like that, like space movies, there's a lot of like nothing's happening but it's just space. Like this is just the shot. And there weren't that many of them in this movie, really.
I think honestly, I don't really have like a great way to describe this, but I thought a lot of the shots that were meant to be remarkable were like they looked great. Like when he switches to the infrared vision scope when they're in the, I forget what the bacteria thing was.
Astrophage?
Yeah, when they like turn on the infrared thing so you can see that and it's visualizing for you what that looks like around him. I thought those all looked really cool, and I think they're intended to. But I thought visually the coolest looking scenes were when it was just showing the ship kind of like on a trajectory through space. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like it made space seem so much more empty than a lot of other space movies do.
Yeah,
because like it looks like everything is completely out of reach entirely.
Yeah,
and it wasn't even a point of the movie that it's so far away, other than that like he had to go farther than any human ever did. But just those shots in and of themselves were like, wow, that's really cool looking.
Yeah, I agree.
Very perspective.
I think if I had to nitpick just a little bit, I think the biggest thing was I liked the humor of the movie quite a bit. Like there were a lot more funny scenes than I expected.
Yeah.
It was a lot. The movie itself was a lot more lighthearted than I expected, which was nice.
Sure.
It's a different kind of tone than most of those space kind of movies are, especially in the situation that it was in.
Yeah.
And I think the storyline itself was super awesome. Like what like the stakes and all that, and like what they were doing and all that was super awesome. But I do think the only thing is there were a few scenes, like certain parts of it that I was like, all right, this is a little bit too silly or like a little bit too unnecessary for what it was. You know what I mean?
A little drawn out, like when he's getting annoyed with Rocky not understanding personal boundaries. It was funny. It just like, there was a moment where it's like, wow, this is still going on. It's been like 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like it's not enjoyable to watch. It is a thing where I do feel like at the end of the movie, I was like, it seems like they could have shaved off about 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. But it's also, there's always the argument. People could be like, oh, well, you're supposed to sit with them in the relationship to like learn kind of how they're getting to know each other and stuff. So like, I understand that, but if we're getting really nitpicky, there's an argument for that as well.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
I probably, in terms of just the movie overall, I would probably give like, on my personal scale, like an 8 out of 10, like a very positive 8 out of 10.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like a very enjoyable movie. Looks good, the acting's good. Story's good. Everything's pretty good. There's just, little things that nitpick here and there, whatever. Other space movies, comparatively, I would say it's probably, I liked it quite a bit. I would say, there are a few others that we'll talk about here soon that I like more. But in terms of movies, it was really good. In terms of space movies, pretty solid. Probably within my top 3.
Yeah, I would say 2 in terms. We were saying this too. Space movies, there's a lot of them, but a lot of space movies have their own sort of specific genre attached to it as well, or are just I don't know. It seems like you think about space movies and you can name a lot of them, but it feels like a relatively quiet category of movies. So I think in terms of space movie conversations going forward, I think Project Hail Mary will probably solidify itself as like a good talking point for a lot of people in space movie conversation. So in that regard, I have a lot of praise for it, that it's not one that will take away from that genre as a whole, you know?
I agree.
But yeah, let's move on to some other space movies. Where do you want to start off with these?
Well, I know the big one.
Yes.
Interstellar, which, to be fair, it's big for a reason. I think it's probably my favorite space movie of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not counting the stuff that we're not talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Interstellar, I would make the case for, is the quintessential space movie. And I feel like alone, a lot of people say Interstellar is like their favorite movie as well. I wouldn't go as far as that. I actually rewatched Interstellar about a week ago, and I was like, this is way better than I remember it being. But yeah, I think in terms of acting, visuals, I guess the stakes of the story and how well they accomplish it, and just like how much I know they they tried to apply like realistic scientific I guess I'm trying to think of the right, like, characteristics and properties and laws and stuff into being visualized for you and incorporating that into the story. I think Interstellar is probably my favorite space movie as well.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of what happens in Interstellar, like, well, for one, as you're following along, the story itself, where it starts out on Earth and stuff, it's pretty grounded, but, like, the story's interesting. But then once you really get into, like, the space stuff, well, for one, the entire movie is just visually stunning.
Yeah. Even when they're on Earth, like, with the cornfield stuff and whatnot, it's really cool.
There's like a bit of mystery surrounding what's going on the entire time and stuff. Yeah. Like, not super apparent in the beginning, but, like, there's, like, stuff that's just kind of off. Yeah. The acting is great. And then, the twist. Twist of what's going on, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
I know. The music is also
fantastic,
super iconic at this point. Like, everybody hears it and they're like, oh, that's Interstellar.
Yeah.
And, too, the cast that's one of those casts where it's, like, as many A-listers as you can name. So, like, Anne Hathaway, Matthew McConaughey, Matt Damon, and then, you have now, like, Timothée Chalamet and, oh, boy, I forget, the grown-up version of Timothée Chalamet in that movie.
I
always forget his actor's name, but I like that actor. But those are all, like, A-listers, and I feel like that's a good movie where it doesn't waste the fact that it has A-list actors and that they all do a good job for the role that they're given in that. But, yeah, I think space movies and taking every scientific thing you can think about with space and turning it into a visual spectacle with a good story, like Interstellar's awesome. Also, side note, I'm always super interested when I'm watching it just in the movement of the robots, like TARS and Case. I'm always like, these are some interesting robots.
Yeah.
But yeah, very enjoyable movie.
All right, what you got?
I'll change up the genre a little bit with the movie Life with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal and Rebecca Ferguson. I think she was in it, yeah. Which I think it's basically like the Alien scenario. You're in space and you stumble upon life of some degree and you're like, oh, it's great, like, it's a great thing, and then it goes horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But I think, apart from Alien itself, that movie is a very horrific idea of a very intelligent entity getting loose on a ship, and kind of the emptiness of space also being, like, a antagonistic force to it, which There's some scenes in that are really uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is like crushing people's hands and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
freaky.
I think the movie itself was super cool. And, you know, the acting is great.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal, amazing performance. Ryan Reynolds' character wasn't, you know, huge throughout the entire thing,
Yeah.
but, you know, notable. What he does is notable.
Sure.
And, you know, he's just good too. But
Yeah.
I think with that movie too, it's at points pretty calm, but as you get deeper into it, it starts to drastically increase the like tempo, and also the stakes are like once they get to the point where they're like, oh no, like that thing either has to leave or, you know, we're all dead.
Yeah.
You know.
Or like, and when they realize the implication of what this thing is and probably why there isn't like life on Mars and stuff anymore, they like are basically like, if we land with this thing on board, it could end the world.
Yeah.
Which makes the twist all the more like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's wow.
The my favorite part about the twist, well, the twist itself was cool,
Mm.
but this whole elaborate plan, you know, they work it out, whatever, and they get it, and they think they, you know, the whole time, like, dude, it worked, like, this is amazing, you know what I mean? Like, parts of it still kind of go wrong, but like it, you know,
Yeah.
it works out the way that they kind of wanted it to.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, you find out that it did not work at all,
Yeah.
and the whole time it was kind of like a red herring, like. They made you think it worked, but it definitely did not. It was not even close.
Yeah.
And they just leave it at that.
Yeah, I would hate to come face to face with that monster. That thing.
Yeah.
I hate that thing.
Oh,
I hate watching
what
that
was
movie.
it? Calvin. His name was Calvin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially, like, you know, when you first see it and stuff, like, you realize, like, all right, like, it's, you know, smart, like, it's intelligent, it's strong for, like, size-wise, it's strong. When it's, like, real small. But then, like, as it grows and stuff and it starts getting, like, even worse, you're like, dude.
Well, I think it's a
like, what do you even do?
Yeah, it's a creepy thing with that one, too. I think I remember them saying in the movie that its entire body is its brain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically just in the way it functions and stuff. So it's just basically a brain building a really strong exoskeleton on the outside of it and getting more and more hostile and, like, figuring them out so quickly. And
Yeah.
it's so, like, bloodthirsty. Like, the whole time it's just trying to find a way to kill them.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, that thing is... I would hate to come face to face with that out of space monsters and movies.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, that movie in particular, it's one of those that, like, people have seen it, people know what it is, but it's not like, you know, one of those movies that, like, everyone knows, everyone's seen. Especially for, like, you know, the actors and stuff that are in it, and, like, how good it is. It's like, wow. Surprised not more people talk about this movie.
Yeah, it kind of flies under the radar, but it's worth a watch to see it at least once for space horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one you want to hop over to? I can throw some out as well.
I know this one we're kind of like, it's on the edge of it, but I mean, it's a space movie. And this is probably my second favorite space movie. The Martian.
Yeah.
Solid.
The Martian's really good. I feel like that's another one that flies under the radar for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know a lot of people know what that movie is, and are like, oh yeah, it's that Matt Damon movie where he's stuck on Mars. And it's like, but that's a really solid movie.
Oh yeah.
You know? That one too captures that, like, I mean, the main thing that's going on the whole time is Matt Damon just being on Mars, but I would say that it's a space movie based on everything else going on. Is everybody trying to solve, like, the problem of getting him back home safe? So that does classify as a space movie. Also, it's just, like, it's funny, it has a good story to it, Matt Damon does a good job, and it's just interesting. Like, it starts off, he gets left behind because they think he's dead, and then he gets right to work, and it's very, like, creative. Yeah, it's a very creative movie.
It is a very creative movie.
Yeah,
I think it's also, like, you know, once again, visually stunning. The action is cool. Like, the stakes are high.
Mm-hmm.
The action's cool. Whatever. But I think the biggest thing is like how technical that movie is. Like,
Yeah.
it gets into like the science of like why they can't get him and like, you know, what he's doing, like how is that working, like the numbers behind it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think like that's one of the things. It's like for some people it might be really slow, but also like if you're into it, like that kind of stuff, like that movie's like pretty perfect in terms of like, oh yeah, like the science behind it and all that. And you're like, oh yeah, like it describes what's happening pretty well.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this is what's happening and this, you know, whatever. Like he's in space, like he's on Mars.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of it like where they're like they go into it.
Yeah, and something I think too that's interesting about that movie is it makes it feel like we haven't landed on Mars, but it makes it feel like a very natural sort of story, like a natural jump for it to be like, oh, NASA is dealing with a guy who has landed on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't seem like a big jump for it based on like the technology and stuff they're using seems as much as they have to get creative with it being a sci-fi movie and something that is just based on theories or saying, hey, this would look like it's real, it makes it feel authentic to what it would probably feel like, or probably look like, you know, like what you'd expect with us now if we were on Mars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So yeah, also that one, I can't name a bunch of actors in that movie, but I have a lot of their faces in mind. And there's of course Jeff Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first movie I ever saw where he was a serious role. So that's also like amusing to watch. His so short with people demeanor is very, very appealing in that movie. I'll jump over to one that is a classic and that has been referenced in so many things. And honestly too, we were just talking about Project Hail Mary. I feel like there were visual aspects of this that seemed inspired by it, is 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have seen the sequel to it, 2010, and I honestly wish that I hadn't because I liked just being confused by the end of 2001 more than the explanation they kind of give in 2010. But 2001 is one that always just sticks, and it's also interesting for that movie's pretty old now.
Yeah. Way ahead of its time for sure.
Yeah, it's very very heavily sci-fi based too, with like the monoliths and everything. But that whole sequence at the ending, from basically their ship's AI deciding what it thinks it knows what's best and killing one of them, all the way through when whatever happens is very visually, still to this day, incredible. And it's just always a good like mystery space story.
Well, I think the best part about that as well is like it is ahead of its time for sure. But like the concepts and stuff, like that was like a new kind of like idea, like you know, space mystery, kind of like intense, you know, and like you'll never really have a movie like that again because like it's like the way that it was shot and stuff and like what they used to shoot it and stuff. Like you'll never get a movie that has like that like now seemingly outdated kind of like look, showing like the concepts that they're showing, like the space stuff in that detail and like the story like that. Like you'll never get that old feeling futuristic space movie again. Like it just
and it's happen. it's like critical to that that movie as well for making it what it is. Kind of that. Is that a 70s movie or an 80s movie? Somewhere around there.
70s, I believe.
Yeah. So even with that, and a lot of the visual stuff with that is really impressive. And that's a movie where it's just a strange thing that at the end of the movie, if you're not confused, I feel like you didn't watch it right. But that's one where I don't mind being confused by the end of it because I feel like you're like, what the heck was that? And it just really... a really satisfying way, weirdly. So, I have seen 2010, and I didn't really care for it as much. It feels like it tries to quicken a resolution to it that just makes too much sense. Yeah. So, it's not bad, but 2001 I think stands alone better than if you try to figure out what happened. Yeah, I think one or two more, but did you have another one that you want to hit on?
I think one that is pretty solid, but I think, at least in my opinion, I don't rank it super highly. Like, I don't know. It's good. Like, everything about it's good. I think it won, like, or was nominated for, like, 7 Oscars or something like that. But that would be Gravity.
Mm-hmm.
I like Gravity, but also my issue with Gravity is that, basically they're in space, on a space station, they have issues, people's lives are in danger. Pretty simple, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing bad, nothing wrong with that. But also, I'm just like, I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
I just, going into, like, some of the other movies, like Interstellar and stuff like that, like, visually it does look very nice.
Yeah.
It's very pleasing. But
it is very, like, spectacle based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the appeal. Story-wise, I'm like, I mean, yeah, they're trying to figure it out and, like, get home safe and everything. Like, I understand that. And, I mean, the acting's good. Like, there's nothing wrong with the acting. I don't know. The characters themselves, they're fine.
They're fine, yeah.
It's just one of those things where it never reeled me in like some of the other ones did.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it looks great. The sound design of it is awesome. The acting is pretty good. The story itself is pretty solid. I think the main strength of that movie, and I think it knows it, or like the people who created it probably know it. It's just they were like, let's make a insane space catastrophe movie, like modern day kind of deal. And with that, I think that movie probably showcases the best out of a lot of just how dangerous space is and like how quickly things can go wrong. Because it starts out and they're just on like a regular space mission, and it gets stressful really fast when like all that shrapnel just comes out of nowhere and rips their thing to shreds. So it's also a very straightforward movie because it starts, we're on a mission and like we're getting attacked by shrapnel.
Yeah, bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
And then they fix the bad stuff. And
so Sandra Bullock and George Clooney both do a good job in it. And it's like, I don't really have anything negative to say about the movie, but it's like, in terms of space movies, it is it's really straightforward. It doesn't really leave you guessing about what's going on. I mean, there's a part where, they deal with hallucination and stuff in it, but it's very grounded for it being a space movie compared to some of the other ones we've talked about. So.
Yeah. But I think that's one, like, I think, like, The Martian, I like that a lot, so I guess it's, whatever. But, like, it's pretty straightforward as well, but with The Martian, it's kind of like a, rather than just being, like, super intense, like, action the whole time, like, he's kind of just doing his thing. It's kind of like a more, like, hopeful kind of space movie.
Yeah. It's pretty uplifting. Like, there's like, low moments in terms of, like, character morale, but that's kind of just the deal of it,
But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, for me, like, the things that make, like, the other one's better, like Project Hail Mary and, Interstellar and all that. The mystery of what's going on and stuff is pretty cool, like the sci-fi element. And then, like, in The Martian, it doesn't really have the sci-fi element. Like, it's super, like, scientific and technical. But it's more of, like, a, the hope, the, characters, like, it's kind of uplifting, like you said.
Yeah.
And I feel like with, like, Gravity, it's straightforward, it's technical, but also it's just kind of like, bad stuff's happening the whole time. Like, that's it. They're trying to figure it out, but, like, it's just like...
It's kind of just, how do we get back down there?
It's 2 hours of cool space visuals and panic, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'll throw one more of the ones that I think is just, it has to be brought up in the conversation of space movies when we're leaving out stuff like Star Wars and for like fans of Star Trek and stuff like that. But Apollo 13 is another one that, like 2001, just has countless references to, and it's like the classic Houston control room NASA, like everybody throws their papers in the air and cheers when everything starts going right. But that one, I always feel like I underestimate how much I'll enjoy that movie. I'll watch that with my family sometimes because they're fans of it, and not that I'm not. Just I feel like that in my mind rests more in like the it's an '80s movie than a straightforward space movie.
Yeah.
But in terms of what makes a space movie and what we're talking about, it kind of has that same like technical figure this out kind of deal, and it's also interesting because that's a true story. But I feel like a lot of other space movies take influence and stuff from that. So other space movies talk about you gotta like use this planetary body's orbit to like slingshot you, and we ran out of this amount of fuel, so we have to cut our resources and stuff like that. And I think a lot of things also make use of the thing where it's like, all right, gentlemen, everybody in this room needs to figure out how to fix this with this using everything in this box. Kind of scenario. So I think it's a classic space movie, and I feel like you can see in so many space movies like the ones we're talking about that especially get technical. It has so much influence over them, which is a positive in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like that is like one of like the like quintessential like founding fathers of space movies. But also apart from that, like that movie itself is just like charming. You know, like it's just a charming movie. It's like it's oldie but a goodie. You know, just an old space movie. It's basic, pretty straightforward. It's kind of, you know, that's what you get. But unlike Gravity, it's not just weird panic the whole time. Everything's bad. You know, there's
and I think that's somewhat too intentional with Gravity, is because like the story is, I mean, I think it's like, I'm sure they do a lot because a lot of that movie is relying on like CGI effects and stuff. But in Gravity, they do a lot of not cutting away from what you're seeing. I think they only do it like 2 or 3 times. So the entire story as you're seeing it is right there with Sandra Bullock. But I feel like in stuff like Apollo 13, it's happening from multiple characters with multiple different backstories and stories, and then it's everybody on the ground being like, oh my god, what do we do? It's their families all being afraid and remembering stories they've been told about space and stuff. And so I think, that movie does have a lot of that charm of like everybody from different perspectives is playing a big role in what's going on. So I agree. That's something that sets Gravity apart. I don't think it's necessarily in a bad way, but from other space movies, I feel like a lot of them have that ground to space kind of storytelling thing. So there's 2 space movies I'll mention that are just the last ones that I think deserve like the mention to them. The first one I'll say we've both neither of us have seen, but I know a lot of people really like it. That I intend to watch at some point is Ad Astra with Brad Pitt, which I don't really know what to expect with it. I don't think I really know what it's about. But I think it deserves the mention in space movies because I've heard the visuals are fantastic. It has a great story to it. And it has Brad Pitt as an A-list astronaut in it. So
I think from what I know about it, I could be wrong. You feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure the basis of that movie is that his father was an astronaut and got lost in space, and I think there's something that happens that makes him believe that he's still out there, so he goes to find him.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So that's definitely one I'll have to watch at some point. That's been on my watch list for a while. I just haven't had the time or the like idea of like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch this 2-hour, 45-minute movie. And then the last one that I don't know if I'd call in terms of its genre a space movie, but I also feel like is very influential as a space movie is Alien. In the Alien franchise, because lots of stuff has to deal with just the cold and like loneliness of being out in the middle of space, and there just happens to be a bloodthirsty monster that is somewhat intelligent coming to kill you.
Yeah.
There are movies and such where they will reference it. Movies that are like heavily in space will make jokes about, oh, like, you know, keep your mouths covered and stuff like that. But I think in terms of just its influential aspects and for conveying the loneliness and like fear of just being out in space by yourself, that also is a quintessential space movie.
Yeah, and I think too, and, you know, not to get into it because this has been a pretty long one already, but you know, that's like in terms of scary space movies, that's like the big one.
That is
like
a big one.
like Life, it was a scary space movie. You know, not super huge. Like Apollo 18, same thing. You know,
Event Horizon.
Yeah, like everything. Like, you know, scary space movie. I feel like there are, like we just named a bunch of them, like quite a few scary space movies, but not a lot of like big scary space movies, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a lot of space movies are like intense, but not really like, it's not really a scary space movie.
Yeah. Alien kind of has the monopoly on like, if you want a scary space movie, go watch any number of the Alien movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that wraps up our discussion on space movies, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll last minute give an endorsement to Project Hail Mary. Is very much worth the watch. This has been the Mild Opinion Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.